Welcome back to the Hot 7 Nightly News. Thank you for staying with us. Dr. Jacqueline Bird is expressing concern over the future treatment of school students now that a suspension and subsequent ban on corporal punishment will be implemented. She says she fears teachers will resort to using verbal abuse as opposed to physical punishment. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
The suspension and imminent ban of corporal punishment in schools in St. Lucia has sparked new concerns among those lauding the move by the Ministry of Education. Following the breaking news earlier this week that come May 1st, an island-wide suspension of the practice will be in effect, leading to an outright ban come May 1st, 2020. This has spawned debates and arguments against the move, especially on behalf of teachers who are tasked with dealing with wayward children. In response to the debates, co-director of Rise St. Lucia, Dr. Jacqueline Bird, said she feels the pain of the teachers as they are the ones who have to face the students daily, including those with behavioral issues. However, she said she fears for the way frustrations might come to the surface.
So afraid of the shouting. Perhaps I'm more afraid of the shouting than the hitting. Not so much because I think it hurt. Well, I do think it hurts more, but it is so more pervasive. I am terrified of the coming months with challenged teachers, and this is going to extend into the homes as well, challenged parents, standing in front of a class with the only tool left to them is to be mean. And imagine brains of 5-year-olds being mean to for 5 years in primary school and going forwards. So we have a work to do. I keep saying don't panic while I try to suppress my internal level of panic, because we are late to the game in addressing this. All the time we denied it and wondered, like somebody on social media this morning, where this crazy woman come out. All the time people have been responding like that to our advocacy on the negatives of corporal punishment. We should have been engaging instead. Where are these people coming from? Let me hear what they're saying.
Dr. Bird continued on to say the current and older generation fell short of adequately preparing the youth for the pressures of life, thus resulting in their troubled behavior. She said, on the other hand, it is not too late to steer the ship in a more positive direction.
We have not done enough to prepare this generation to handle the problems without resorting to the physical punishment, which was the modus operandi of the past generation. And you are so right in that we have different children growing up in this age of technology. But you know what is the same, Rochelle? The same is the way the brain of the children of today develop. That has not changed. And the same way that they respond positively to what Dr. King was describing, praise, recognition, and nurturing. That is so central to the core of a growing individual, especially a child. And that is the technique that we're going to need to use. But we can't start when they're 15 and they're truculent and they're disturbing you at Blue Coral Mall on an afternoon after school. They should have been molded from the minute of birth, maybe even before birth, into the kind of mind that can self-manage when they're 15. So yes, they can go to Blue Coral Mall on the way home to be seen by their friends and to rub shoulders, but their behavior there will be such that it's not going to disturb anybody.
The Rise co-director said the excuse used by the older generations, stating that corporal punishment molded them into better adults, is a deep-seated mentality imposed by culture. She said, as a matter of fact, children thrive and grow into better adults based on the positive and supportive influences in their lives. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
Meanwhile, on the flip side, one religious head says the intention behind delivering a dose of well-deserved corporal punishment should be to correct and discipline, and most times is done with love. That's according to the superintendent of the Methodist Church, Seth Ampadu, who sat down with Solange Alfred to share his views on the Ministry of Education's recent announcement to abolish corporal punishment come 2020.
The current Education Act of St. Lucia makes provisions for the delivering of corporal punishment, Article 50 of the Education Act 1999 reads, "Corporal punishment may be administered where no other punishment is considered suitable or effective, and only by the principal or any teacher appointed by the principal for that purpose, in a manner which is in conformity with the guidelines issued in writing by the Chief Education Officer." This, Superintendent Seth Ampadu of the Methodist Church says, should be gradually modified to fit the culture of the island, rather than implementing foreign policy made for countries with a different makeup than our own.
We need to find a way to minimize it, but not to take it away, because we are looking at UN law and other things. Look at excuse me to say, the children in the European countries, how spoiled they are. Do we want the same thing to replicate in our society today? And again, every country is unique, and therefore we cannot take everything holistically from UN and put it in our context. We need to look at our context, to train our children.
Ampadu says that with a removal of corporal punishment, indiscipline will plague St. Lucia's school system.
I don't think we should eradicate that from the school at all. Other than that, we are going to produce children who are very stubborn, children who are irresponsible, children who are indisciplined in the society.
He went on to address the positive feedback that the proposed abolishment of corporal punishment has been receiving from youth-oriented organizations on the island, like Rise St. Lucia Incorporated.
That is why I made a point that it should be done in love, not too extreme, right? And again, if you take what Dr. Kane is saying, there is another research that shows that children who are being punished at school, they do well. I think there should be a balance. And again, if you're a teacher and you are punishing a child, you should not do it with anger, but you are doing it because you want to shape the future of that child.
The Ministry of Education has announced that the suspension of corporal punishment will take effect on May 1st, 2019, and the eventual abolishment will come about on May 1st, 2020. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solaj Alfred.
Drivers are reacting to the new traffic flow pilot program by the Department of Infrastructure along with the Department of Transport and the Royal St. Lucia Police Force to help improve the travel time along the Castries-Grosley Highway. The ministries are trying to minimize traffic interruptions by closing the entry into Windward Island Gases Road, preventing vehicles from using the junction as a bypass. This has been selected as the focus of the pilot due to frequent traffic entering and exiting the secondary junctions, which are within close proximity to the highway, thus interrupting the main traffic flow on the Castries-Grosley Highway. The Public Relations Officer of the Grosley Minibus Association says this is a matter that will be discussed with members.
Presently, we're having discussions with the ministry officials. It's a little too early for us to really predict anything. They're trying the pilot project to see how it goes. It's still at an early stage, so we really cannot capitalize and say anything about that presently. But we're looking to see what's happening in maybe the weeks to come, and then maybe we'll be in a better position to maybe, decide on the way forward.
However, some see the move as more of a hassle than a remedy to traffic congestion.
The times they want to close that down, that's peak hours of rush hour. Everywhere in the world has rush hour. Tell me, how could you avoid that? Closing that makes it much more difficult for us. As an exit for us. If they want to close down, they could change it up and say, well, allow bus drivers alone to use it and the others use the show. What? And yet still, if they allow it for bus drivers, not all bus drivers will go down that route because there are a few people on the road, and what amount of people you'll find there? So the easiest access for us, that's what we're trying is to get people in and out of the place. The backlog of people there in the morning is that contributes towards it too. So I don't see the reason why they want to close that down. There's no reason for that.
You see what they do already from the beginning, from the bypass. Well, the bypass is to help us, but when I check it right now, I see the traffic flowing. You don't spend time in traffic. So I can buy all this money I use in there, and you don't spend time there. Traffic just keep flowing all the time. The traffic is non-stop, keep flowing. Now we passing through the other side, so it keeps the traffic steady. because you see the amount of vehicles that are coming out through the junctions. But if it wasn't for that, the traffic flowing. It's just the gap, the water wash gap, that's the problem.
You're watching the Hot 793 News. Stay with us. We'll be right back.